Hello, good morning, good day, good afternoon, good night, and welcome to Rethink Everything, the show, the podcast show that rethinks everything from the top down, the bottom up, and somewhere in between. That was nicely said, wasn't it? And today's guest is, oh my God, I might as well just decamp to the States actually, because I've got another guest from overseas. The North American contingent continues to invade the show. and I have a lovely guest today who's Sue Kearney, who owns and runs Magnolia's West. She's a coach and mentor, and she's another 3 principles coach and mentor, and she helps women in the third stage of the third part of their lives, which I'm going to ask you about that because I don't know how you kind of work that out. Who deal with chronic pain and disease and other things. And the reason I got her on this show is because we are going to be talking about chronic pain. There is some specific items I want to talk about in today's show, which I think will be really interesting to delve deeper into. She also makes beauty products and healing products, and she's also a writer and an artist. So she's multi-talented like myself. And but she's probably better than me. And so welcome to the show, Sue. How are you today?
I'm good. I just muted myself so I could blow my nose, but the timing was perfect. I'm well.
I might have to release the video later just so people can see it.
I'm well, thank you. I'm well. It's a beautiful sunny morning in Northern California, and it's a beautiful day. How are you?
Sunshine there today, you see. So we're just coming out the back end of winter, and we've just had the Siberian beast from the east.
So I heard, yeah.
And actually traveling back up from my mum's house down in Redhill yesterday, it looked like wacky races had taken place on the A40 because there was cars like strewn all over the place. Some of them had gone through walls. So, I mean, it was pretty bad.
I have a client in the UK near Cornwall, and she said that snow tires aren't even a thing in your country.
Nope, not really.
So yeah, I guess skidding is happening.
Yep. We're a bit crazy over here. We don't prepare for anything, and when it happens, we just moan about it. That's what we do. So let's crack into the show, because I spoke to you last week about chronic pain. And one of the things that I talk about, or certainly have been talking about recently, is how our thinking is a major part of our experience. And I've had people that have come back to me and spoken about chronic pain. And my answer to them is usually along the lines of, do you always notice it the same? And that one insight can help them dramatically. It can be there. I mean, it's like I've got tinnitus, and I've had it for years. Some days I can go without noticing it. But I know other people that have it and it drives them crazy. Well, it only drives me crazy if I think about it. It's not, the thing itself doesn't go, but if I think about it, it can drive me crazy. And I'm imagining it's going to be something a little bit similar to pain. But I'd just like you to tell us how you got to this stage where you deal with people with chronic pain. Because I think your backstory is, by the way, incredible. And really interesting. And then we'll go deep into the pain side, I think.
Well, if incredible literally means hard to believe,
yes,
my story is not incredible. It's absolutely believable. It's just kind of nuts, in a big way, because I'm just starting there. It's not what you asked me, but I just want to say that I lived my life heedless of my own safety and that of others for decades, for a long, long time, because I didn't really have a good relationship with my existence. And so I didn't expect to live very long. And I'm in my late 60s now. I've lived more than twice as long as I planned to as a kid. And I really did kind of have it as a life plan that I would die before I was 30. So I now get to walk through life with the gifts of living recklessly. And I have some structural dysfunction or, you know, broken bits in my body that can be really painful. And I'm articulating slowly because I'm really rolling that idea that what you just said around in my head about how often do I actually feel pain. And one thing about the kind of pain I have is that it's not the same. I've had tinnitus and as well in my life at different times, especially when I developed a fondness for Excedrin, which is an aspirin product in the States that has a ton of caffeine in it. And I brought it on myself and then had to get rid of it. But that's kind of, for me, a steady kind of thing. And the kind of pain that I have in my spine and my nerves has peaks and valleys. And so sometimes, much of the time, it's completely, it's almost completely ignorable. It's just like a level of, it's just a thing. But then it'll spike. And it'll spike, a part of my body will cramp. I mean, just massive cramping. And it will take my breath away. It'll stop me, it'll take my breath away. It'll basically become the elephant in the room for a few moments. And whether that's 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, somewhere in there. And then it'll recede. And when that's happening, it really does, it does eat my attention. It does. It's rare that it does not. But it's also in those moments of spiking and a really lovely opportunity for me, because, and I can't say this is a technique because it doesn't work all the time. And I don't want to label it a technique because I'm becoming more technique. The more I look at the 3 principles, the more technique averse I become, because I don't want to rely on techniques so much. But there is an opening when my neck cramps or my hands cramp or my feet or whatever you name an extremity it can go, where I can just breathe. But breathe with 110% of my attention. Just breathe. And let go of the 10 other things that I was stacking up in my head to do next. And just, like let my brain relax, let my head relax, let my body relax so that I feel my feet on the ground again, so that I can connect to my root. I'm a longtime Tai Chi player, so that's one thing that it feels like to me, is I connect back down. And then I don't know if it shortens the time where I'm in the spike, but it just makes it, I just open to it. It's kind of like I'm dancing with it. I have no idea what I just said or if that made any sense at all. Did it?
Well, it was really interesting what you said about the dancing with it. I mean, I don't know if I told you last week, but certainly some people on the show will know that I've taken up ballroom dancing, and I'm actually in a show in a few weeks' time. And I actually said today, I did a Facebook Live on depression and anxiety and stress, and which are the effects of thought gone awry, basically. And I was talking about, I said, if I was to be a doctor and I was to prescribe 2 things, and I had only 2 things to prescribe, one would be listening, which is listening to yourself and others. If you're a coach, for instance, or even a doctor, listening to others, but deep listening to your body, which is kind of what you described. And certainly before we got on this call, you talked about a way of kind of like releasing that. And the other one would be dancing, because dancing has, in terms of a doing, it releases the serotonin, the dopamine, the epinephrine, the endorphins, etc. It does all the things that, having that connection, that touch, that love, that sense of music, that movement, focusing on something that isn't whatever was bothering you before, all the stuff that kind of we're talking about. And it's kind of like the one-stop shop. I mean, this Tai Chi, I did Tai Chi for 8 years, very similar. With Tai Chi, of course, what you're doing on your own. Whereas with dancing, you're doing it in hold, you're doing it connected to another person, and you have to deeply listen to them and their body as well as you and your own. It just ticks all the boxes. Now, I've only done it a few weeks and I'm already in a show. It's like I went to one lesson and I was like, this is it. I'm dancing forever now. And you see, like, they have shows, Dancing with the Stars and Strictly Come Dancing Over Here. And every single time the people go on it, they just go, it's the best thing you'll ever do. Just dance, just start dancing. So I've all my clients now, I'm just going, have you got any dance lessons near you? You need to take it up.
Oh my God, Damien, this is not what we're supposed to be talking about, but I have to tell you that I was walking down a hall to go to a foxtrot lesson. I started dancing when I was 50, and I started ballroom dancing, and I was walking down the hall to learn more about foxtrot, and I heard, my head did this swivel because I heard swing music, and I looked and I saw people with plaid skirts and saddle shoes doing the Charleston, and I never looked back, and I've been a Lindy Hopper and a blues dancer ever since. And there is nothing like it. And I've been off the dance floor more than on for the last few years because I've been so sick. So you have just, this is it. I'm going dancing this Friday. I don't care. So, because there is nothing like the magic of lead follow dancing, especially when it's swing music and the music is the third partner. There is nothing like the magic on the dance floor and the endorphins and all those other things. It is the most healing. So thank you.
I'm just going to be prescribing dancing to everybody now.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yes.
That's so cool. But this is it, because the pain thing is absolutely crucial, because this is where we started. It's like, well, you're not thinking about it all the time. Therefore, the delivery system. Okay, we're not denying that pain takes place, and I personally think that pain is there for a reason. Right, pain is there to tell you of a misalignment somewhere. Yeah, in the same way that I actually think that mental pain, depression, anxiety, etc., is a form of a mental misalignment. People have called me a mental chiropractor. And I think that what we do by pointing people back to how it works, the functioning of the system, is it kind of retunes or realigns that mental functioning. And you see people like pop back into place by having an insight. That's like the popping of a disc back into place as they realign and they see something that was not there before.
But I don't know I don't know that the reason is to point the person who's suffering from chronic pain to the answer that will fix it. Because some of these things are degenerative and not fixable. They just are. So what can be fixed then, if anything can be fixed? It feels more juicy to me to look at in the direction of fixing my relationship to it, more than fixing it itself.
Can you do both?
I don't know. Sometimes it feels like I can. Sometimes it feels I'm having a different way of answering that come to me. It's not a yes or no. It's not black and white. It's not I either have a condition in my body that causes pain or I don't. So fixing it would mean turning it back to where there was never any pain. That's not what I think I can do. What I think I can do is increase the amount of time, is to have a relationship with the it of it and with myself that allows me to be fully functional, or more close to fully functional more of the time, and to be enjoying myself in my life, in my body more of the time than I am not. To feel like I need to make it the thing that I'm doing or complaining about or trying to solve. I like it when I don't have to give that a lot of energy. I feel like I'm really doing well when I don't have to give these conditions in my body a ton of my energy or maintenance, or, you know, that I can take exquisite loving care of myself and then get on with my life and go take the walk, or go dancing, or, you know, be in my life, be in my work, be at my table creating something, or writing, or working with a client.
What do you do with your clients? How do you work with your clients?
It feels to me mostly like I sit shoulder to shoulder with them, looking at what's up, what's working, what's stopping them, where they feel stuck, and looking at what is it that's making you feel like the only way to look at this is that your circumstances you need to change. What if you don't? What if your circumstances are a gift through which you can enjoy your life more, be of more service to others, have more fulfillment, more creative expression, and feel more connected despite or no matter what the circumstances are. I'm really a down-to-earth, plain speaking person, and it's very simple to me. The thing about the three principles that engaged me with the most elegant, simplified way of affecting transformation is that my circumstances don't define me. And they don't have to stop me, and neither does anybody else's. That they're just, oh, can I cuss on this podcast? I'm sorry.
No.
I have a potty mouth. They're just fucking circumstances. And and we all have them, you know. It's like that saying, opinions are like assholes, everybody's got one. Well, everybody's got a plate. And when I have a long history with 12-step recovery, and early on, I heard somebody say, if we all put our problems in the middle of this table, I promise you, when we left, you'd pick yours up on the way out the door.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have tested that theory a ton in the decades since. And I think it's a really beautiful, get you back in your body and in touch with your goodness truism that helps me, you know. And then when I found the work of the people who explain this so beautifully, about circumstances, and how our thinking about our circumstances is like throwing napalm on a simmering ember and turning it into a forest fire. And I have done that much too much in my life. And it's, you know, it's really nice to let it go. But when I let it go, that means I'm letting it go, and it doesn't matter what the it is. And it can include breathtaking pain. It can include financial challenges. It can include a health system that makes things really difficult. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It can include finding out that I bought something on eBay and got ripped off for it, and then, you know, and then getting to deal with that. It's just,
we've all been there.
yeah.
Yeah, we've all been there.
So that we chose to talk about chronic pain today, it's kind of like I could have shuffled a deck. We could have picked the card of chronic pain, or the card of I can't afford my groceries, or the card of I don't like my housing situation, or the card of I hate being single and I can't seem to find a way out of it.
Can we just take a little detour for a minute? Because I'd be really interested to know your thoughts on the three principles and addiction.
Oh, sure. And there was something you said earlier. Oh, I was going to capture it just now, but it flew out of my head again. I wanted to detour back to something too, and maybe it'll come back. Yeah. Well, you're familiar with 12? I went to meetings for years and years and years. I just had 27 years of sobriety the other day. And so that's a lot of time to go to meetings. And it was kind of like, meetings were kind of the center of my life. It's where I made my friends, where I had some modicum of social life. But, and I don't know which came first, but about the time I look at principles, I also started to feel really tough. People bemoan the fact that they were still flawed. In 12 steps, they talk about character defects. And then as part of the 12 steps, you do the work to ask to have your character defects removed, as if at some point you will be defectless, which means that you have been defective. And I just got really tired of hearing people still being disappointed in themselves, still feeling like they weren't measuring up because they were finding themselves, I don't know, name it, gossiping or lying or finding an error on the check at a restaurant and not reporting it, or, just they would catch themselves being human and doing jerky human things, and then come to meetings and just, beat their breasts. And I just got really tired of it. I started to lighten up about everybody, that we're just human, and I started not only to lighten up about it, but to appreciate the diversity of flawed humanity all around me, and didn't feel like it was something that I felt was useful any longer to worry about or worry about not having fixed yet. It just doesn't have the same appeal to me anymore. And so I've stopped going to meetings for the most part. And I appreciate being a sober woman. I appreciate much of the way that whole 12-step thing works. But you didn't ask me about 12-step. You asked about addiction, right?
It's all part of the same,
okay.
Thing.
So I don't know what I think about the 3 principles and addiction, except to reflect back what has been said to me by some other people in this 3P game. And that is that, like, for example, I now take some drugs that I used to abuse with gusto. I used to lie and steal and cheat and go to doctors and make up symptoms and have surgeries I didn't need to get pain meds. I did that for a long, long time. And then I didn't do it for a long, long time. And then I decided to see if I could take medications for pain without becoming a lying, stealing, cheating junkie again. And so far, yes, but I don't love being on these drugs. They're depressive by their very nature, and they're a bit mood darkening, I find, even at a very modest level. And when I've talked about that to other 3P coaches, it's been said to me, well, you'll take them as long as they're useful, and then you'll stop when they're not. And that was an astonishing perspective for me, because my relationship with drugs like this in the past was just to really obliviate, if that's a word, to take myself out of the moment as hard as I could. I think really it's kind of like a minor league suicide drive that I had for a very long time. I just didn't want to be present, it kind of being loaded as much as I could for as long as I could was a way for me to feel okay. And I did not feel okay in my skin, in my body, from very young, from as long as I could remember. And when I found drugs in my teens, I felt like I had found a home for my bent and broken psyche, a home for my bent and broken heart. And that was the home I occupied for over 20 years. I got sober when I was 40. So, so now it's interesting to look at the that so a couple of the steps in the years now are part of my self-care, and I have great appreciation for it. And sometimes I just feel like it's pretty funny because I've lived longer than I ever planned to, and I'm walking around functioning and being of service in the world the best I can in a body that's kind of battered and broken in a lot of places. And I think that is a remarkable gift, because I'm not the only one, you know. There are a lot of women who I don't think it's just women, and I don't think it's just people with drug addiction and or addiction in their lives. I think that we, as a culture, we're so youthified. We're so celebratory of youth and invincibility, and you know, that when the third of life, and that's what I wanted to talk about to you again, because you were wondering about that. When the third of life comes around, where I wasn't prepared, and I think a lot of people aren't prepared for the vitality and spark that's still generative and generating on the inside, being carried around in a vehicle that's like my 22-year-old car, or whatever my car is, 15-year-old car. It's a little bit of a rattle trap, you know. My body is a jalopy. So you know, but my heart and my mind are not. My heart and my mind are as young as ever, and thank goodness. I mean, that's another thing I could be dealing with, and I'm not so far. So I'm glad about that.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, there's they call it the oh God. So they're talking about like memory loss now. What is it when the mind and the body, the physical and the mental, parity of esteem? That's it. You heard of that? Parity of esteem. A parity of esteem. It's
okay.
About treating the mental and physical the same, as if they are both as well, and they are both as important as each other. Because, you know, you can be in a fantastically fit 70, 75, 80-year-old body and have complete dementia, and that's it. You know, might as well be gone. And vice versa, you might be, you know, sharp as a spark and with terminal cancer. So, you know, neither's a good balance. Really, let's face it. It's a parity of esteem is what they call it. And it is. I mean, I did a Facebook Live today. I think I mentioned it already. There you go. See, I'm really badly now. It's like, did I do a Facebook Live today? Yes, I did. And talked about a holistic approach to dealing with depression. So, you know, some three principles coaches would say, oh, it's just your thinking. Well, that's pretty useless. Yeah, if you're right in the midst of the darkness. And there'll be some that completely poo-poo, you know, this whole thought of diet and nutrition and exercise and sleep and all that sort of stuff. There'll be ones that won't even talk about hormones or genetics or any of that stuff. And I think it's a bit of everything. I think we create the environment for whatever it is to thrive. Yeah, if you create the environment of pain and abuse, right, it's still going to be delivered by thought, but you've got more of a chance of that thinking going awry. If you've got hormones and genetics that are all over the shop and you don't give it enough sleep and you don't give it enough water, you're creating the environment for disease, for dis-ease. And it's a holistic approach to all of it. So there's no point in saying to people it's just one thing. Well, it is, you know, thought is the delivery system. So it doesn't matter what happens, whether it's a life event or hormonal change or, you know, overactive thyroid or, you know, substance abuse, whatever it is, it still has to come via thought. So that's the reality of it, whatever it is, you know, the genetics turning off and on, whatever it is, has to come via the thought, which is why two people in exactly the same scenario can have a different experience, because it's the thought can be different. But it's creating that environment whereby you're improving the odds. That's pretty much what I'm talking about. And I just think it's very easy to say, you know, we're all perfect. It's nothing to do with anything but thought. You know, you're all God. Yeah. Well, look, we live in a world where bills have to get paid and we get disease. So let's talk about that, because that's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I just don't even gravitate towards the sector of the 3P community that says that, because I'm very interested and committed to enhancing the playing field, leveling the playing field as much as I can. I have not stopped eating impeccably. I have not stopped supplementing my diet with mostly food-based things that increase longevity and decrease pain. And, you know, I mean, I'm not just taking meds. I ingest things like collagen and colostrum and minerals, and I drink and measure the amount of water I drink, because I can get super lazy about hydration. And almost everything that's going on in my body is connected, you know, if I look at it, if I research it at all, says hydration is going to help with this. So I have my own dance that I do with these things. Sometimes I pay better attention than others, and some, you know, but I'm always looking for the allyship, and I'm very willing to do the work to bring those allies into my life, so that I increase the opportunity for more ease and less dysfunction and less pain. It's not something that I've been able to cure or fix, but it's something that I definitely feel interested in and empowered to change the playing field, you know, to feel like I am not in charge of it, but I'm a full participant, right? And if I have these problems with my spinal cord, that I don't know if they can be reversed or fixed, but I do know that I can meet them where they're at, and do the, you know, and slather my skin in the areas of pain with tinctures that I create with cannabis oils and other kinds of herbal healers that bring healing energy into that part of my body. I do that every day. I'm in the bathroom for like 2 hours a day, taking care of myself, you know, and whether it's dry brushing before I shower, or the lotions that I put on my body and the healing elements that I put on my body before I dress in the morning, and all that stuff. It's matter of fact for me, but there's just no other, that's the best way that I can see to show up for this phase of my life. You know, it's kind of like,
so did you say late 60s?
Yeah.
God, you really don't look it. So it's obviously you're doing something right. I had to really check with that. I was like, did you really say you were late 60s? You don't look it.
Yes, and I can barely choke it out. Maybe if we get to know each other a little better, I'll tell you exactly how old I am. But yeah, late, not early.
Well, if anyone actually sees the video, you can see for yourself. She doesn't look late 60s. She really doesn't.
Yay. It's because I make my own health and beauty products and I have gorgeous skin. There you go.
There you go. So, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So we're on the same page. Well, that's good actually, because so at this point, I'm going to tell the podcast listeners, that you and I are actually going to do a Zoom call, because we're going to talk about this in a bit more depth with the listeners with people that are suffering from chronic pain and want to know more about leveling the playing field. And I think that's a really good title as well, because I think this is a really interesting subject area, and one that I've agreed to help you in, and to basically to help others in. As people know, I do work with depression and suicide, and I want to level the playing field for that. And so I'm going to be doing some work with Sue on this one, and we're going to create an offering for people that want to take a holistic approach to dealing with their own pain. But we're going to start with the Zoom call, and we're going to roll this out and get people to send us their questions and things that they want to talk about, and probably do some live coaching on the call as well. And it'll be in a couple of weeks' time. So this is going out on Wednesday, so it'll be a week and a half from when you hear this. So, or if you hear the replay, it will be probably, I think it's Monday the 19th, I think it is. That's the initial time date that we're going to do it for, and we'll release details in the next couple of weeks. But that's really the plan. We're going to be leveling the playing field for people with chronic pain. There you go. See, I told you as we were talking it would come out.
I know. Thank you. And that's what I really like about you is you have a great ear for those things that I love I have my stuff mirrored back to me because it just comes through me, Damien, it just comes through me and I don't really hear it sometimes with the value that it has. Thank you. Do we have a minute for me to talk about what the third of life means for me?
Yes, of course.
Oh, cool. Okay. Cause you mentioned that at the beginning, and I'm a witch. I am an ordained priestess in a pagan tradition. I do not do any public priestessing these days. I don't have a coven except the ones that just happen naturally. And by that, I mean, I get together with some of my friends for new moon work, and I get to, I just have these things that just happen naturally. And I think I'm actually going to go to a public equinox ritual in a couple of weeks, just because it's calling to me with all this energy of spring in the air. But in my tradition, it's common to talk about the three stages of a woman's life is the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And those are not, for me, stages where the maiden ends and then you become a mother, and then the mother ends and you become a crone. These energies are always present. But I also feel that physically, on a physical level, the third of life is for a woman the stage that begins when menopause is in the picture, or you're of menopause age if you don't happen to have a womb. But it's that menopause age and beyond. And for women who do have a womb and go through that physical hormonal set of changes, it's a huge shift. It's a shift from the outside in and the inside out. Skin changes, gravity happens, hormones change, vaginas become atrophied instead of juicy and full of folds, and just everything changes, and relationships change. If you have kids, they move out, they grow up and they move out, and careers change, and retirement is a thing for a lot of people, and spouses die or move on in another way. It's a time of life where many people just withdraw, or like my father, it's the anniversary of his death this week. Like my father used to say, after my mother died, he was just killing time, waiting to die. There was nothing. He gave up. And that happens a lot. And I am here for the third of life. I am here to carry the message that not only is juicy, lovely life available to you in the third of life, but that you are doing something for the people coming behind you when you show up for it. And those kids that are coming up behind us, they need it. They need our wisdom. They need our compassion. They need our stories. I didn't mean to cry, but anyway, that's some about the third.
I love that. They need our stories. That's it. We need to pass it on. We need to pass
Yeah.
it on.
So I'm glad I didn't die. I'm glad I'm here.
What was that? Again, I've mentioned before that I keep hearing the word suicide all the time at the moment, but it came up again today. It's something else I heard today about someone that was prevented from committing suicide and got to the point where they said, thank you for helping me realize that I still had this gift to give. This is it. We all have this gift. Some of us don't understand what it is. And actually, I also wanted to pick up on something you said earlier, because I wonder if you've heard of this guy called Andrew Solomon.
Andrew Solomon, nope.
So he's done 3 TED Talks now. 3.
Wow.
He's a gay political columnist. And he does, the first talk is on depression. Second talk is on oppression. And the third talk is on love. But in the second talk, which was really, they're all 3 of them are really good, actually. He talks about oppression breaks the power to oppose it. Sorry, oppression breeds the power to oppose it. He said, if you banish the dragons, you banish the heroes. And I love that. And he talks about forging meaning from whatever happens. I can't remember what forge meaning from something or other. And then the one in love, he said, I don't accept the subtractive model of love, only additive ones, which I thought was good. I don't accept.
Wow. You still got me on the dragons and the heroes part. That's like powerfully rippling through my head. That's big. Yeah, I will check this. Yeah.
Got some really good lines. He's a journalist, so he writes good stuff and he talks brilliantly. Well worth listening to. They're the ones I wanted to download them. So, but I just thought you might have heard of him, actually, because obviously this is one of the things that I think it would be nice to kind of delve into. In terms of
I will.
Things happening, making meaning out of things that happen to us, and turning them into something that we can then use as a story to pass on to others. And give it.
Which is not what we usually do when we make meaning. We usually turn them into a story to our own detriment when we make meaning out of things that are happening. That I know how to
Why
do.
Me? How dare you?
Why me and how dare you? Yeah, and really, yes. And come on, I've suffered enough. Somebody else's turn.
So we're going to flip that on his head. We're going to level the playing field. That's what we're going to do.
I like it.
So Sue, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and it's been a really interesting show today. We've kind of gone all over the place today, and in a good way. And I really appreciate you coming on there. It's so funny when you talked about being a witch, because you have this immense power about you, and it's something that I think I was really drawn to as well. And of course, when if you do your research into what witches actually are, witches were just wise women that when the emancipation of women happened because men were threatened by women, because not only did they have all this power because they understood the land and they understood recipes and they understood herbs and stuff like that, but they also could carry children. And men couldn't do that. So the men just went, burn them, throw them in the wall, kill them because they are dangerous. And it's a fascinating history about witches. Witches were always they were the wise women of the tribes.
There's a song, "Who are the witches? Where did they come from?" Maybe your great grandmother was one. But I've returned to Judaism after a lifetime of not. And I turned my back on it as a kid because it's patriarchal, and I just didn't feel like it was punitive and patriarchal and martial and not for me. And now I have made it I'm just fascinated by the divine feminine in Judaism, which is there, very well buried, but it's there. The wise women in Judaism, the wise women in the red tents, the goddess. The goddess is there in all the patriarchal religions, and I'm having the best time going to inclusive and conscious synagogues where people are on this path with me of reemerging the wise women and bringing them back into light, and so that's been a really wonderful thing to connect that now. I'm a Jewish.
Jewish. I love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm not Jewish, I'm a Jewish.
I'm a Jewish.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Well, so it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us on Rethink Everything today.
Thank you.
Speak to you soon.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
Rethink Everything.